Welcome to Tonic Sky Radio. Good evening, Nick Welsh. We have Nick Welsh, aka King Hammond, on the line. How are you doing this evening, Nick?
I'm absolutely superb this evening. I'm sitting here with my little doggy on my lap, and he's gone to sleep on me while I give him a nice stroke.
Very nice. So I'd like to ask you a few questions about your life and obviously what artists you've been involved in, and obviously your new album that you've got coming out.
Yeah, well, it's out actually.
It's out currently.
You like.
Okay. So when you first started out, what made you become an artist? Was music always into your blood?
Yeah. Well, I mean, my dad was a musician, and he made literally thousands of records in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. I used to get to go to places like Abbey Road Studios and Pine, places like that. I used to make records with, like people like Cilla Black and all those sort of Mersey beat people and David Essex and all these sort of people. So I was very lucky to be around music all the time, and it used to bring me home records and stuff from all the, the labels that you work for. And so by the time I was 8, I already had like about 100 albums or something.
Oh, wow.
But so I was very lucky. I used to go and see him, because he used to conduct the orchestras at places like the Palladium and stuff like that. So yeah, I was always surrounded by music right from an early age, and we always had music playing around the house. And so yeah, it was probably was always going to be that way, It can send you two ways. I mean, if one of your parents or someone is a musician, it could send you the other way. You don't want anything to do with music, but music has been my whole life. So
yeah, I suppose is that the person that influenced you over the years then?
No, not really. No, because I was terrified of his musical ability. I mean, you're talking about at a time where, like, for instance, my dad would go. He used to do 3 sessions a day. It was like 10 till 1, 2 till 5, 7 till 10. You go all the studios around London recording all these different artists, and you go, say, for a band, but most of the times they wouldn't let a band play because it would waste too much time. Studios were expensive. So they used to get in session guys who just used to read music, who could do it. And, majority of records were made that way. And so my dad taught me to play some piano and stuff like that, but I couldn't read music. I still can't. And in those days, and right up till, say, 1976, that was a big part of the thing, was reading music, being able to do all that sort of stuff, and there's no way I'd do that. But then luckily in 1976, the wonderful thing called punk rock started. And so it became that the playing and the reading of music, etc., it wasn't as important as the spirit and just singing from the heart, So I kind of, I played my first sort of gigs in 1976, but my first sort of proper gigs were in the middle of 1977, where I was playing I had a punk band called The Dead, that was my band. And we used to play places like the Roxy, which is probably the most famous punk club there was, and the Vortex, and all these places like the Nashville. And, I was like 15. I was still supposed to be at school, but I was busy getting drunk on lager and, trying to pull punk girls and, playing in a really awful band. But
is that the gig you played with? Is it Cock Sparrow?
Yeah. I played with Cock Sparrow about twice in that year. They were really very nice to us, lent us all their equipment. I mean, it was a different kind of Cock Sparrow, I think, to what it is now. I'm not too sure now, but it was more of a pub rocky, Dr. Feelgood kind of thing. But they were really good. They were brilliant. I'm not sure that's what it's like now, because I haven't seen them. But they were great, and lots of other punk bands and stuff. And like the first gig we ever really did, we had 3 of the Clash were in the crowd. They just came down because the Roxy, which was the club we were playing at, was the punk place where people would hang out and stuff. The DJ at our show was a guy called Don Letts, who was in Big Audio Dynamite and made loads of films, and is a great DJ and a great guy. And that week that I played, I was on the front of the Melody Maker, which for younger viewers was a musical newspaper of the times, had a headline saying Teds v Punks. and had two pictures of two great big teddy boys, and underneath was a load of us, and I was in the crowd of punks at a gig at the Marquee for a band called Chelsea.
Nice.
So, and I thought, wow, this is how life's always going to be. You're going to be on the front of the papers, this, that, and the other. Of course, I was proved to be very, very wrong. But it was a good start, though.
Okay, so obviously, when you left there, you then went to Bad Manners. Is that correct?
Well, I mean, there was a period.
A based Bad Manners. Sorry, I should have.
No, there was a few years after the sort of punk thing died down a little, where I did some records, sort of DIY punk records, with different people playing on stuff, records that I see like now on eBay for like 60, 70 quid a throw, singles, you know.
Yeah.
You know, and then I had a few other little things, but I had other things I was doing at the time, like bringing up a child as well. You know, I had two children, but yeah, I mean, and then I did some records with Buster from Bad Manners, solo sort of things. He was making a solo album. This was in the mid '80s, and then he said to me, "Do you want to do a sort of band just playing around the sort of pubs, basically in London?" And we could have called it Buster's All Stars, because at the time Bad Manners were kind of branching out into sort of other stuff.
Yeah.
And I think he wanted to just sort of do the skinhead reggae stuff and stuff. So I said, yeah, great. And then we started playing. It got a really good response straight away. And then at the same time, I was playing keyboards in Bad Manners, because the keyboard player in Bad Manners wasn't really doing much with the band. He was selling insurance. And so I did that, and then I moved to bass because of things. So I was playing in the two bands at the time, Bad Manners and Buster's All Stars. So, yeah. But you know, at that time there wasn't even really what you would call the ska scene in England.
No.
There was Bad Manners. I mean, none of the two-tone bands were there. I think maybe Madness had just split up and they started again as the Madness, I think they were called. They did an album under that name. There was a few smaller bands that I really loved, like Potato Five and the Deltones and stuff like that, but it wasn't big at all. I mean, I can remember playing like with Bad Manners to like 6 people in Skegness and stuff like that. Yeah, no, it was, you know, and they just wanted to hear Lip Up Fatty or Can Can or whatever.
I was going to say, you wrote a few songs with Dougie. You wrote, what was it, Return of the Ugly?
No, I didn't write any songs with Doug. I wrote the songs. I wrote songs.
Oh, sorry. I was about to say, Dougie wrote a song, but
we did have something where we contributed a little bit. But the things, ones I did sort of for the band at that time was Scarborough UK, Skinhead Love Affair, Return of the Ugly, Memory Train. Like, you know, just some good songs. But funny enough, like Scarborough UK and a song called Memory Train, they were all for King Hammond. Because while I was doing Buster's All Stars and Bad Manners, I thought to myself, well, this is all very good, it's nice. Because you've got to remember as well, there was like about 6 of us in Bad Manners all went to school together. So, yeah, I mean, Doug's 2 years older and Buster's 2 years older, and so was the rest of the band. But we went to school together and been like friends all this time. But the music I really liked out of that, you know, that's one of my bugbears is, you know, when people say, oh, what's your favourite ska record? I like Liquidator. And that's not even worth the argument anymore. You say, well, that's not really ska, it's reggae. And it's merely sort of skinhead reggae-ish. It's not really worth going into these things. I've had so many conversations, stroke arguments like that. It's boring. But I wanted to play what I call and what is known as skinhead reggae.
Yep. And
so I just started writing some songs, and then, you know, I did a few. I recorded that song Scarborough UK and the one called King Hammond Shuffle on the same day. And then we went to America. We did some shows in Los Angeles as Buster's All Stars, and then we played this gig in LA, and there was like about 3,000 people there. And he's always he always used to go off midway through the set for a couple of songs, you know, have a rest. And then we'd do a couple of instrumentals. And this time we did Scarborough UK. It was the first time I ever played it live. And I just changed it to, this ain't downtown, this is Scarville, LA, you know. So they all cheered because they all heard it. And once Buster heard that, he said, oh, we've got to record this. And I thought, well, I've already done it. It's a King Hammond song, but we did it. And so, you know, I was actually, with these songs, they were for my own thing. You know, they were for King Hammond, except for the one called Skinner Love Affair. That was for the band Busters All-Stars. And then it's so confusing. So many of these records have come out again and again and again with different sort of names.
Artists.
Sometimes it's Bad Manners, sometimes it's Busters All-Stars, you know. So it gets a bit confusing sometimes, you know what I mean? But that song was written, I can tell you, it was written for Busters All-Stars, and it was originally, although it was going to be Skinhead reggae, it was originally written as a swing song. And I thought, I was making it, it's like a musical joke to myself. I was imagining Frank Sinatra singing it. This song. I met her at a ballroom gig. She said you know, and I was thinking that was funny, you know what I mean? And, but then it got changed and stuff. But, yeah, so those are the few of the things I did around that time, you know. All very enjoyable, all good fun. We had great fun touring the world and all over. But then it just, for me, wasn't going anywhere. I wasn't getting to promote the King Hammond thing. I put an album out called Revolution 70, which did really well. Once again, something you can't even get it on eBay.
I was going to say, it's worth a few quid on eBay, I've noticed.
Yeah, no. I mean, I haven't got one myself.
Oh, you haven't?
Like the things when you're doing all this, you give stuff away to a mate comes around or someone asks for something for a charity raffle or something, and you give it to them, never thinking you're not going to be able to get it again. You cannot get those records now. And if you can, they're sometimes not in the greatest of condition. And when I saw one that was fair, it was like £100 or something for an album, and like, I don't really want to pay £100 for something that I did for nothing, you know what I mean? Which is a bit strange. But I couldn't get to promote King Hammond stuff because I was busy all the time with Bad Manners, Busters, All-Stars. And then also it just wasn't going anywhere. It came to a kind of head when we did an album called Return of the Ugly, and then the next album we were going to do was going to be really adventurous, like a double album. We'll get loads of guests on it, and anything goes. You know, we'll have ska, reggae, dub, but we can do anything. And that album changed into a covers album called Fat Sounds, which was released after.
Is that the collection?
I don't know. I see once again.
Oh no, it's not. No, Fat Sound is not the collection. Fat Sound is one of the albums.
It actually came out after I'd left the band. So I don't really know, and I think some stuff was added to. There was other new songs or whatever with it. So, and you know, to me, it was like a sort of a sign of the times. It's like looking into the future. Is this what we're going through? You know, we're talking about being adventurous and doing this, and it's gone to a covers album, which is not my thing. Covers, I'm not into doing all that. I cover once a year, and that's for an organisation called Specialised. Who once a year they put out an album raised for charity, and they'll do an album 1 year of Clash songs or specials or whatever, and so I will do a cover then and usually turn it right round, and it doesn't sound anything like the original. And at that time, Pauline Black and Neil Davis had started coming to some shows we were doing as Busters All-Stars and doing like 4 or 5 numbers, selector numbers, and I really enjoyed it. And I thought, she's a great singer, Neil, great guitarist. And then we got a chance to go to America with it. So I just said to Buster, I'm going to have to do this just for 3 weeks. I've got him a replacement, and this, that, and the other. And when I came back, I said, I wouldn't mind doing that again if there's a chance. Is that cool? And he said, no, it's me or nothing. So it had to be nothing, because I can't, we're talking about someone that I've been friends with since junior school, and went to Cubs and Scouts together. I was, I took it as a compliment that, that I'm good at what I do and whatever, but I just couldn't let anybody tell me what to do. Music's about freedom. You know what I mean? I've been doing this now for over 40 years, through thin and thin, you know what I mean? It's like, I just, I couldn't do it. So I went on to being the selector for another 15, 16 years, whatever it was. And in between those times, we also had a thing called Selector Acoustic, which I really enjoyed, which was just me and Pauline. We did 2 albums. Unplugged for the Rude Boy Generation and Requiem for a Black Soul. I really enjoyed them. They're laid back ska and reggae. And we also joined up with a thing called Three Men in Black, which was with Jake Burns, the Stiff Little Fingers, J.J. Burnell, the Stranglers, Bruce Foxton of the Jam. It was basically a theatre, in brackets, a super group, acoustic super group or whatever. We used to just play the song and then the writer would normally say how he wrote it or tell a funny story. Well, it was all really enjoyable. But
how does that come about then? I heard it was Three Men in Black, so I thought there was more than three in the band. So obviously it's just a band name called Three Men in Black.
Yeah,
but I think there was five of you, weren't there?
Black, there were some bad-intentioned people who aimed the black bit at Pauline, which is just rubbish. It wasn't why it was called that. And they were just people with bad, dodgy minds. It was because more to do with the main Paul apparently was to be JJ from the Stranglers, and they had this Men in Black thing and all this. That was a big thing for the Stranglers. It actually turned out, to be honest, that it was Jake Burns, Stiff Little Fingers. Their fans seemed to used to get all the tickets first, and I was amazed that they got fanatical, support Stiff Little Fingers. Great band, you know what I mean? So no, there were sometimes there'd be 4 or 5 people on the stage, so it never really made that much sense anyway. And me and Pauline held up the end of, for us, the ska and reggae. I always felt like we were looked upon as maybe, that music's a bit lesser, because sometimes ska and reggae maybe only has 2 or 3 chords in it. Based on a groove or a feeling or something like that. But, we always did well, thanks to Pauline. She can get a crowd and she can sing great and stuff,
So you left the Selector in 2006, and obviously... did you form Scarville UK in 2006?
Scarville UK. I'd had a band before that called Big Five, which I really loved doing, which was myself and Jenny Mathias from the Bell Stars, and John Bradbury from the Specials was in it, and a few other people. And we did 3 albums in the 90s that I really enjoyed. And then, I thought after 15, 16 years, I was always, I've always been, my role in the band was like, well, you help write songs, or you might produce, or you play the bass and you do your backing vocals, and you're always there for the singer. But I thought, you know what, it's got to be time I do my own stuff, write my own lyrics, write this about what I feel about, And I started a band called Scarville UK with basically some old friends like Louis Alfonso from Bad Manners, Al Fetch, who's sadly not with us anymore on drums, and Martin Stewart from Bad Manners as well. Probably the mistake we made was calling it Scarville UK because people just thought Scar all the time, you know what I mean? Which it's never going to be like that with me. It's never going to be like that with me. I mean, people call me a ska artist now, or I get lumped in with that. I'm not. I just do. My music has an offbeat running through it. I mean, I was always more of a reggae person than ska or whatever, but they're songs. It's just songs. I don't see, people call everybody ska these days. None of it is.
No, I know.
Whether you're talking about, the Specials or the Jewelers or anyone like that, you can call it a form. But if you're talking the authenticity of it, it's the Scatterlights. It's Derek Morgan's, Early Buster, you know what I mean? It's like that, but people just say ska all the time, I mean, they're all great bands and great artists who've made great records. But, I mean, sometimes you get a bit picky about it, and I don't wish to be that, people say, oh, we play ska. Then you put on, say, a track from my new album. They go, well, this isn't ska. Well, I never said it was. Do you know what I mean? It's you that are calling me this. I mean, and in one way, my new album, which is my favourite record I've ever made. I mean, I actually play it myself, which is ridiculous. When I make a record, that's it. I never play it again. It goes, I put a copy of my own in a cupboard and that's it. But this one, I play it all the time and I love it. And it had a couple of different titles before, the final one was released. And I thought, Disco Candy. It was just a song that I wrote. It's not about disco or anything like that. It's about something else. But I just thought, what are people going to think about that? And then I had the idea I wanted a mirror ball on it and the stars. I don't know why I wanted stars on it. But I did all this, and I thought, am I making a mistake here? People think this is like a disco record or whatever. It's very dancey.
Yeah.
It's very dancey and stuff. But I mean, I still hear elements of reggae, even hip-hoppy with some drums and stuff. They're just good songs. They're the best songs I've ever written, and I really, really like it. But you worry about things like that. I've never worried about the music. The music, I write music for myself. Every song I've ever written is for myself. And if other people like it and buy it, that's brilliant. But I do it for myself, and that's why I'm so happy with this thing, Yep. And it kind of, because I'm an old punk, kind of the name Disco Candy, I like it because kind of, throw something in the fire, I mean,
yeah.
So people go, whoa, what's this? I mean, if anything, as far as the reggae genre, ska, rocksteady, dance, whatever, there's more dancehall rhythms in it. But obviously, I'm never going to be a dancehall artist,
Yeah.
I'm an old white man who loves the music, I mean, I'm never going to be what's considered. But I don't set out that way. I don't do toasting or whatever like that. I sing, but I was using the rhythm of it, I like on one of the tracks there's Nyabingi drums, but I'm not a Rastafarian, you know what I mean? But I just like the rhythms. That's what I live. And being a bass player, you kind of live for those rhythms, And it's the only chance as well these days where I really get to play the bass. I do it in the studio because it's all played by me. I play everything on the records as a guest vocalist on some of the tracks, and on one of the tracks, beg your pardon, Louis Alfonso was a guest from Bad Manners on one of it, because no one can play that rhythm like Louis can. For me, I love it. He's a don at it. But so it's my, I can get all my bass riffs out, make up stuff, but that's about the only time, because when I play live as King Hammond with my Rude Boy Raffia, I obviously have a bass player there. So, I think that's got to be one of the records for me talking. That's about 20 minutes without stopping. Without the aid of any recreational drugs, I can speak for 20 minutes.
So you've worked and produced music with obviously the likes of Prince Buster, Laura Aiken, Dave Barker, Rico, Judge Dredd, Lee Scratch Perry.
Jamaican names in a sort of Cockney accent.
Thanks.
Rico, where is it you're from?
So obviously that's where you won your Grammy Award in 2002.
Well, I mean, it was more. I mean, what happened was I got a call to work with Lee Perry. I got 3 tracks on a cassette saying, could you learn these? Yeah. And they were hip-hop songs. So I just thought, well, he obviously wants the bass lines off of it, and then he'll just do his own thing or whatever. So I went in the studio, did that. That was all over in 15 minutes. And then everyone was just sitting there. And so the producer of the record said, have you got anything, Nick? No, I had this guy called Roger Lomas, did a great job. And so I just started with the drummer, Al, playing all these. They basically were King Hammond bass lines and stuff like that, which I hadn't used, because it had been 15 years since I'd done anything. But I still write all bass lines and stuff all the time. And we ended up recording basically 33 songs. And I think there's probably 20 odd of those came from my bass lines and grooves and stuff like that. And then I left it. I'd done my job. I went. And then I just got a call one day saying, "Oh, you won this, musicianship on this thing, And it's good. I would like to have won it for something that I liked, but it was it's an interesting record. It's definitely not an easy listening record. Let's put it that way.
I've obviously read as well that you can be heard on some TV shows and some films.
Oh yeah, my music's all over.
What is it, Peep Show? Oh, I can't think of the
Peep Show. Yeah, there's music in Peep Show. There's loads. I mean, a lot of American shows. Ugly Betty, Desperate Housewives, Malcolm in the Middle. Only the other day I was watching a show. We have a station, I think it's maybe regional, but it's London Live. It's called. And they were advertising all these films, and it was just music playing, just playing through it, and in fact the music that they were playing, I remember it was being used on a Sillet Bank commercial as well once, and so I love that part of it. It's great, I remember one of the ones that I heard it on was one of the tracks I did. It was used as the music when they were looking for a woman that had gone missing at the end of the news, and they were playing this sort of really sort of dubby, sad piece of music of mine, so that's quite interesting. You get to be used in all different things, like whether it's Sky Sports or whatever.
How does that come about then?
Well, at the time, it still is. It's called library music, basically. Basically, right. It's music that doesn't really have singing on it. It's usually instrumental, so people can talk over it in the back, in the background, stuff like that. There was someone looking for someone to do some ska and reggae for they were the second biggest company in the world, and then someone just suggested me. They said, well, this man Nick Welsh, he's great with melodies and stuff like that. But funny enough, the one that's used the most has got some vocal in it, but it's just 2 words. It's called Hey You. And it's been used everywhere. And it literally took me 3 minutes to write and probably 3.5 minutes to record. It really pleased my son that when it was first done, you're talking maybe nearly 20 years ago now, and he came and he goes, Dad, your music's the entrance music to a WWE wrestler that he liked called Spanky, Brian Kendrick Spanky. And it was all over that. So all of a sudden, all his mates thought I was great, 11-year-old kids or whatever, you did that music for, what was it, SmackDown or something. I don't know. Didn't really know much about it. But so that was good though, being the entrance music of and I saw it on TV. The guy who comes running into the ring, the crowd are going mad, and the American guys on the commentators are going, "Hey, watch this music, man!" They go, "Hey, I think it's called Scar. I love this music." And then my music comes in. So that was great. Yeah. So that's what keeps it interesting, doing all this different stuff. Yep. Nowadays, since. Going back to Scarville UK, we did 3 albums and then we kind of just stopped. And that's when I decided to go back to doing King Hammond, which I hadn't done since basically 1991. And it was my son who was asking me, he goes, "Why don't you do that King Hammond stuff again?" And he said he liked all the stuff with the pum-pum and all this stuff that I was doing. It was kind of funny then. But I tried to explain to him, I said, I was like 22 or something, I said. That goes, and it's funny then, you're young and you're just having a laugh. I goes, I'm nearing 50. If I did that, you'd just be a sleazy old man. So I said, no. Then I thought about it. And I just thought, it doesn't mean you can't write new stuff though, does it? No. And the first song I did was a song called Cool Down Your Temper, which was about knife and gun crime amongst young kids, and especially where I live in London, there was every day you'd go out and there'd be a load of flowers on a fence or something every day. Yeah. Some other little kid had been wearing a horrible thing. So that was kind of the first thing. And then the next one I did was called Mr. Easy Talk. That was about politicians' expenses stuff. I mean, I do a lot of political stuff, but it's just not rammed down people's throats. Yep. I always make sure that it means a lot on different levels, and no one's ever said, "Oh, you just do political stuff." Well, I do a lot of it, but you wouldn't notice because it's layered. Yep. Like a proper songwriter, I'm not going to go and just go, "This is wrong."
Not in your face.
I'm not going to tell people what to do. What are they going to do? Well, they're going to come back and tell me not to eat pie and mash all the time, No, you live your own life, but, I just do that, Stuff on the new album is like that. Most of the stuff is about my life and my bits. There's one on there called You're the Glue, which is a dancehall kind of rhythm, and that's about my dog, which doesn't say a lot about my missus if I'm saying that he's the glue in the relationship. But I just can't help it. If you have a dog, they take over your lives, basically. Just love them, you know what I mean? It's brilliant the way they just look at you and then come and sit on you. It's just wonderful, unconditional love. But,
in 2017 you wrote a book, didn't you? The Life and Times of a Scarman?
Scarman, yeah, of a Scarman. I got asked to do a book a bit before then by a publishing company, But then I sort of said, okay, thought about it, and then they said, but could you write a load of stuff about people you work with, like people like Pauline Black or Buster Bow or whatever, bad things? I said, no, I ain't going to do that. I said, I'm not that kind of person, and also, this is my book. I goes, it's about me, you know. Yes, people will feature in it, but, you know, no way am I going to do that. So I kind of gave up the idea. Then another company approached me, and they basically didn't say anything like that. So we did it. It did really well. Very popular book. Very honest, very funny. In fact, I'm hoping there's going to be an updated version of it because, you know, they seem to think there was a lot in it, but I don't think there's anything. I think there's so much more I could do. And through lockdown, I've been writing loads of stuff that I've, you know, forgotten about or put it in there. And so hopefully maybe next year it might come out again because it's out of print now. I mean, because they just sold really well, you know. But at the moment, as I say, you know, because of lockdown, mentioning that again, I've been stuck in. I'm diabetic and things like that. My daughter says, "Oh, I don't want you going out and doing this." This is like, you know, at the start of 2020. So besides just walking my dog and avoiding everybody like an army manoeuvre, I was stuck in. I still am. The last time I did a gig with my band was December 2019.
Wow.
You know, and I'm a professional musician, so that in other words, I've had no income since then.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I rely on selling records or whatever. People seem to think wrongly that maybe, as someone said to me on Facebook, they said, "Oh, you must be loving this, just sitting in your studio at home doing it." I said, "I don't have a studio." No. Yeah. You know, I go to work. I pay to make the music you see maybe in the advertise or here. That I've paid for that, and I'll never recoup the money I've spent on it. But to use a cliched thing, but it is real, me going to the studio, which is like 2 streets away, for me, where I could walk down. And I was the only person that he was letting use the studio as well. I didn't use it for the first few months, but then when it eased a little bit, you know, I just walked down there, and then just because I'm on my own and play the music myself, it was quite easy to do. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? But that was the one thing, to use a cliche, but it's true, that was good for my mental health. You know what I mean?
To get out and about. Yep.
In 2020, we had loads of nice little festivals coming up and gigs, and this is going to be great. All of a sudden, gone. That's it. No excuse. No, you don't need an excuse. You know why it's happening. But you know, you're sitting there, and at first you think, "Oh, it's going to be, or maybe September." That goes past, and you know, I mean, I've got a few shows apparently coming up in August. You know,
a few, one in London and one in Darlington.
Yeah, I've got one in the 100 Club in London, and that's basically 2 years since the last time I played in London.
Yeah,
it's like I'm like Led Zeppelin or something now. You know what I mean? It's like yeah, and hopefully it will happen. I know the 100 Club spent a lot of money on the system for the air vents and all that, you know, to make it even better. It's a nice club anyway, you know, and like an iconic club. But I know they've got this new system in, so hopefully that will be good as well. And I know tickets are selling really well. Yep. So, you know, hopefully it will happen, you know what I mean? Because it's been a long time, and I live my life for getting on stage and performing and singing. And the other thing is, once again, like say for instance, like with this new record, well, I'm not going to play like that on stage. What I do on stage is completely different.
Completely different to how you in the album, yeah.
And live, and on stage, it is much more skinhead reggae, ska, thrashed out, have a good time, make sure everybody in the audience know how much I appreciate them being there. I never know what I'm going to say before I go on the stage, so it's like, if I saw you there or something on stage, I can say, "Oh, right, mate, blah, 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 blah," you know, and it has that off-the-cuff feeling, you know. Yeah. And, you know, because, I mean, you know, I've played in bands where basically it's been the same intro every night, you know, the same thing said, the same, and I think, no, I want freedom. I want to go on, and if I want to just change, if someone shouted out a song and I said to the band, "You know that one? Right, let's do that one." Yeah. You know, and, you know, I appreciate being anyone who comes to our shows. You know, there's a lot of things, and money's tight. Well, certainly it's for me, but money's tight. And if people choose to spend money to come and see a show that I'm doing, well, I'm not going to mess around with them.
You're going to perform for them.
everything. I put everything into that show, and for an arthritic, nearly 60, diabetic, high blood pressure person, it does very well. But it ain't going to change my way. I'm still going to do whatever I can do. And we're playing in London on the 100 Club. That's August the 21st with a friend's band called the Scapones.
Yeah, with Paul.
And Paul Willow. And also, I think that's the week before, we're playing a thing called the Stone Valley Festival.
All right,
With, I think the headline bands that day is Boomtown Rats and someone.
Yeah, it's quite a few.
I'm pretty low down the bill, but I don't really care, you know what I mean? Whoever's there, I will entertain them, you know what I mean? Yeah. Personally, I think I should be a few notches up, but, we'll get there. Once people have seen us, I'm sure they would invite us back. Like, that's what normally happens,
Have you got any outdoor events? Because obviously they're I suppose Stone Valley is outdoor, but obviously
outdoors, and then funny enough, I've got a gig. The first one we're doing back, pardon me, is in Weymouth, and that's outdoor. And then there's another gig I'm doing in Weymouth like 2 months later, and that's outdoor as well, on the seafront, on the beach and stuff. So that's quite handy because they've got more chance of happening, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Whereas the ones indoors, you don't know at the moment. We don't know what's going on, really. To be fair.
No, I mean I've heard all different things, and it's just like you can do it if there's not 1,000 people. You can do this if it's I don't know anymore. I stopped watching the news. Something I never thought I'd do. I mean, no, that's not exactly true. I still watch it, but I don't believe any of it now.
Yeah.
It's like, maybe they are trying and maybe it is hard work to do it, but there seem to be so many mistakes and stuff made and stuff. But then again, what happens if I swap place with Boris Johnson and Matt Hancock? Probably worse, I'm sorry, mate. I didn't realise. I didn't know it was, So, I'm not saying, I don't really trust those people, but, it is a hard gig. It must be a hard gig, but, even so, some of the mistakes you think. But then again, hindsight is a great thing to do, look back and say, you've done that. But I just can't wait to do it because, as I say, since 2010, I came back as doing King Hammond. Since then, I've released over 160 new pieces of music.
Wow.
Over about 14 albums or whatever it is, some EPs and stuff. I've tried everything, first of all, as I say, everything that makes me happy. I want to feel like I did when I carried home, a copy of the new Bowie album or like the first Clash album. I remember getting that. And you get offered a bag in a record shop, if anyone remembers record shops. You get, and you say, no, I don't want the bag, so you could carry the sleeve out in the street, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and show it all off. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, it backfired to me with the Bowie one because you can read about it in my book. I got mugged. I got mugged for it on the day of release of Aladdin Sane by David Bowie. I got mugged by about 4 people in a gang. Had to go home and I told my dad, no, 4 people have just stolen my David Bowie. Which he probably said something, like, you toughen up, son. Something like that. But, that's a lot. And then, there's a hardcore people who buy King Hammond music and I know they're really proud of it and owning it and love it. So it may be a smaller level, but, I'm doing something right, and I'm still here and I put everything into it. As I said, there's no second job for me. It's always been this way. And, and it's a struggle. I can tell you that. But being, as I say, a reggaeologist or whatever, most of reggae is about 2 things, and that's shagging or having a struggle, the pressure of life or whatever, And and the other thing is with my music, you can definitely shag to it. I always wondered about that. I thought that's what reggae music was for. It's for bedtime sort of stuff. You know what I mean? But and I always wondered who did it to Night Boat to Cairo. It's just going, get off of me. I just want to make music all the time. It's just always been my thing. I like the idea that you wake up in the morning and you haven't got the song there that you've got by the end of the day. You think, where did that come from? How did I get that? And every day is a joy to make music. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, us people like go on. I mean, I used to not be too keen on the people who did the covers and the tributes and all. Now I just don't. I don't really care. I don't give a monkeys about it. Let people do what they want to do. And,
I was going to say, there's so many people that have come out of the woodwork since lockdown and obviously made like sort of bands and obviously come into cover bands. Obviously, I know a lot of bands that obviously despise them because obviously they've come out of
people
lockdown.
Do. I mean, when it was first around, like, you know, when I was growing up, like, when I started being a punk band, it was like that was the lowest form for us. There used to be a band who used to play in my local pub called the Strolling Bones. And there was that, and I remember when we was like 14, 15, imagine that. Imagine if you couldn't write your own song. I was 14, 15 then, you know, and so, you know, sometimes, you know, you think, oh God, you know, but like, it's none of my business. Good luck to them. That's what they want to do, and people want to go and see it, and they have a good time. And as long as they're good at what they do as well, I think that's quite important.
Yeah.
You know, but then that's fine. I do what I do. You know, sometimes it's hard when you played on a bill with a band above you playing some of your songs. And you think, oh, God, you know what I mean? But no, you just have to deal with it. It's worse.
I was going to say, what's going to happen when there's going to be a cover band called King Hammond?
I've tried to start one so I could stop because my arthritis is getting too bad. I thought of King Hamster, where you just get a fat man going around on a wheel singing Right in London Town. I thought that would be quite good. But no, you know, it's just, you know, I've heard bands do it. I've heard bands do my songs already, and like, you know, but, you know, as I said, I used to think, oh, why are they doing that? Why can't they do their own stuff? But good luck to them if that's what they want to do. Yeah. And as long as people don't feel shortchanged by it, then that's great. You know, I'm happy with what I do, and I'm sure they're happy with what they do. You know, what surprises me is the amount there are.
Yeah,
for the same thing.
Few. Yeah.
You know, they're for the same songs. I've done shows where I've heard, you know, songs which you know, everyone quotes the same sort of songs. You know, I played 3-4 times before I've even got on stage, and let me tell you, that's harder for me to work like that because, you know, you've gone to a show, say, where people are listening to music they've known for 40 years or whatever, 40, 50 years or something, and then I come and I go, here's one from the new album, you know, but so they better be good, you know, and they are. And people, one thing I'll say is like, once they've heard a King Hammond chorus once, that's it. They will sing it the next time, and that's something I'm very proud of. It even happened the other day. That song I was talking about from my new album, "You're the Glue." That's me trying to be modern. Not "You're the Glue." You're the glue.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm not going to pronounce it for you.
No. I was sitting playing it, as I said, because I played for fun, and I looked down and I saw my 4-year-old granddaughter singing it. I had tears running down my face. I was like, you know, I go, do you like that? She went, yeah. Go sing it. And she went, you're the glue. And I was so proud. You know, I believe in the power of music with children. I mean, I still, you know, like the music I liked when I was a little kid. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, so she'll go. She'll go, innit?
So obviously that new album out, it's obviously called Disco Candy. Yeah. We've got a few tracks we'd like to play off the album. The first one is Scream. Say again?
Scream is a song which I would call sort of post-punk. After the first wave of sort of punk came along, you know, your Damned, Clash, Pistols, whatever, there was a bit just after that was bands like the Gang of Four, pop group and stuff like that. That's how I saw this song. You know, it's a song about lockdown, you know, it makes me want to scream, you know, sometimes. Yeah. And I'm really proud of that one. It's got a real edge to it. I mean, it does not sound like a record made by a man 1 year short of his 60th birthday. I think it sounds quite fresh, and, you know, I'm really quite proud of that one, you know.
Right, let's take a listen. I was going to say, let's take a listen to that now.
opposite. If I confess about the shape I'm in, I'm high, I'm low, too fast, too slow. It's crazy, I know, and it makes me wanna scream. 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 Hey sister, what can I do? I'm so wild, I guess I'm through. I smile, I frown, I'm up, I'm down. Can't face this town. I've just gotta scream. I've just gotta scream. I'm high, I'm low, too fast, too slow. Ahead, no glow. Man, it makes me wanna scream. 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 I'm high, I'm low, too fast, too slow. It's crazy, I know, man, it makes me wanna scream. It makes me wanna scream. Check in, check out, I clap, I shout, without a doubt. I just wanna scream. I just wanna scream. I just wanna scream. I just wanna scream. I just wanna scream.
Okay, so that was Scream. There's another track called Inner London Town. What's that all
In a
about?
London Town. Well, what it was I got a song called Right in London Town, which was one of the first songs that I did as King Hammond when I came back. A lot of people at the time said to me, "Oh, what rights was that? The 81 rights you're talking about?" And I said, "No, it's about architecture. It's like how they've just destroyed the London I love, you know. If you go into the West End, there's a place called Denmark Street, which is like where all the music shops used to be. Brilliant buildings. And now they look like Lego. It's like there's green and orange and yellow, these strange buildings.
Environmental stuff, or whatever they call it.
Yeah, is that what it is? Is that what they do it?
Well, yeah, it's meant to be eco-friendly.
Oh, well, it's not
Meant
good
to
on the
be.
eyes, you know.
Yeah.
A bit like my missus, you know. But sorry, that's an awful joke to me. So that's what it was about, you know. Not just the fact, you know, in the acoustic version of that song, you said where all the record shops we used to know, the cafes and the wimpy bars we used to go with, you know. Obviously, everything's going to change. I get that. But it's what they do. So the horror, if you looked at London from above, it looks disgraceful. You know, bits sticking out here. It's not like a New York where it's all like that. It's like, and I just felt like doing it again because like last year, I had a real surge of listening. I'll tell you how it started. Someone posted something on my Facebook of their old Ghetto Blaster, right? And I looked at it, it was my one, the same one I used to have, a Sharp GF777, double cassettes at the front.
Oh, you even remember the model, yeah?
Well, I wrote a song about it straight away that day, released it. Yeah. Very, very popular. It was sold out really straight away, that one. And then I did a few of my songs. There's one called Rockin' on Wrigley Road, Cool Down in Tempo. I sort of reinvented them in the original dancehall style. And one of them was Right in London Town, but I called it Inner London Town just because I changed the melody a bit. A few of the lyrics were different, you know. But I just love those grooves, you know. I love it. And as I said before, you know, I'm a London Cockney white nearing 60 man. I'm not a Jamaican dancehall artist, whatever. But what I hope is that the love of that music that I have shines through.
Yeah.
You know, because people can be quite bigoted against you doing that. Now, I've played concerts where everyone else on the bill has been black and from Jamaica, and they love King Hammond. They all say, it's great, you sing, entertain, blah, blah, blah. But sometimes I've met people that, like say, in London, they just say, what makes you think you can do that? And I just say, well, it's just me. I pay for it. I go and do it. I write it. Well, you know, you don't have to listen to it. You don't have to buy it. You know, you know, someone said it to me once, and I said, well, Prince Buster thought this was good, and he's a mate. He was a mate of mine, you know. So, what am I going to listen to you for? You know what I mean? But I just thought I could reinvent them a little with a dancehall with them.
Yeah. And
it's not a strict takeoff of a dancehall. I've used some of the elements, but it's a little bit more to it than that. But I think the excitement's there. I always think dancehall, like hip hop and stuff like that, it's kind of like punk, but after punk, you know what I mean? It's got that bedroom sort of thing about it. You can start a band in your bedroom, or nowadays, like with grime music, you know, you can do it on a laptop in your bedroom and stuff. Well, once again, like tribute and cover bands, I used to think that was that's a bit cheating, isn't it? Why haven't you got a drummer? But now I think, no, do what you want to do. You know, as you get older, the freedom element becomes a lot more important. You know, you don't have those rules anymore. Like when I was a punk rocker, early days, 1976, 77, there was things people, why is there punk bands? They thought it should be London-based. You know, that was a big one then. You know, so what about the Buzzcocks? What about this band, that band, Stiff Little Thing? You know, but people are like that then. When you're younger, I don't know. I think there's a kind of, you know, I don't know. I think you grow more. Hopefully you should do as you get older. And then accept more things. Some people go the opposite way again, you know. I don't. I'd rather listen to anything new, see if there's anything good there, see what they've got to say. That's my thing. It's like an old folk thing from the 60s. People used to say, have you heard this artist, you know? And they say, why? Have they got anything to say? Well, that's what I'm like now. If someone says to me, Nick, go and check out this band. I say, well, what are they saying? Are they good? You know, they got anything they want to say about their lives or whatever, you know? You know, people say that to me all the time about bands, and they say, write to me and say, you know, check them out, and so I will do. And if they've got something to say, it doesn't matter whether I rate the music or not, or the songwriting ability or whatever. As long as they're writing it, and as long as they mean it, you know, they mean the song.
Yeah, that is very true.
You know,
I was going to say, let's take a listen to that Inner London Town now.
In a London town, riots in a London town, in a London town. From Camden Town to Brixton, there's a riot going on. Tears will flow in the Bush and Bow. There's a riot going on. London town is falling down. It's a place that I don't know. A place that I don't know. A place that I don't know. In a London town, in a London town, riots in a London town, in a London town. Say goodbye to Peckham Rye. There's a riot going on. Notting Hill. There's a riot going on. London town is falling down. It's a place that I don't know. A place that I don't know. A place that I don't know. In a London town. In a London town.
Okay, that was Inner London Town. You've got another track out called Counterculture Troubadour.
Troubadour, yeah. That's a good
Tell
one.
us a little bit about that
track on the album.
song.
And that one, yeah. Well, once again, it used the dancehall rhythm, but it's also got some Afghan tablas in it, some banjos, kind of morphs into the world music scene a little bit. It's just how I feel about myself. In the big world, you know, the whole world, well, then it probably doesn't stand out as much, right? But in the world that people put me into, the genre of ska and reggae, I think I'm a bit, like as one of my songs says, I'm a bit of an outsider, do you know? And that's what this song is about. It's like a counterculture troubadour. I'm just like, I don't stick to the norm. I mean, you know, so that's what that song is about. It's got a lovely female singer called Nakisha Esnard on it, and she sings half of it. See, I'm so generous. And no, it's just the way I feel. One of the lines is like, no diamonds in a bargain store, you know. Yeah. I just feel blessed to what I do, and actually, like what I said before about growing and freedom. Without doubt, my songwriting ability is getting better and better as I get older. What I'm worried about is I'm not going to make 60 and I won't be. See that? You can play that back when I'm gone. But, you know, that's what it's about. I don't think I'm anything wild and different in the greater scheme of things. But if you get down to the music that you kind of get thrown in with, I feel a little different in it.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I'm not saying I'm this or special or whatever. It's just the way I feel about myself.
Okay, let's take a listen to the counterculture troubadour now.
Counterculture troubadour, what goes on behind that door? Counterculture troubadour, counterculture troubadour, a hiding place where ideas pour. Counterculture troubadour, counterculture troubadour, how long will it go on for? Counterculture troubadour, so spread your wings and fly, boy, spread your wings and fly. Go head up to the sky, boy, spread your wings and fly. Spread your wings and fly, boy, spread your wings and fly. Don't let your spirit die, boy, spread your wings and fly. Counterculture troubadour, broken dreams lay on the shore. Counterculture troubadour, counterculture troubadour, like diamonds in a bargain store. Counterculture troubadour, so spread your wings and fly, boy, spread your wings and fly. Go head up to the sky, boy, spread your wings and fly. Spread your wings and fly, boy, spread your wings and fly. Don't let that feeling die, boy, spread your wings and fly. Counterculture troubadour, there's one thing I know for sure. Counterculture troubadour, counterculture troubadour, you'll always be forevermore. A counterculture troubadour.
So that was Counterculture Troubadour. I can say it now.
Yep. There you go.
So I did have a few listener questions, but you've answered them over the course of the interview. So one of them, obviously, what I'm about to say is what you said about. One of them said to me, "Does he have a recording studio? Does he have his own recording studio?" So obviously you answered that question for me anyway.
Yep, never had a recording studio ever. How I do it? Do you know how I do it? I get my acoustic guitar out, I put my phone on, and then I just sing it into that. It all adds to the excitement of it. I happen to think the music I make is quite exciting, off the wall. I don't spend too long on the basic recordings. I like to get the excitement down there. Yep. But then you can always go back and you little touches in the mix and stuff, you know. But no, I've never had one, never will do. Like, for instance, Scarborough UK, which is a very popular song of mine, that was me just walking when I lived in a place called Hackney in London. And I was trying to mimic someone you mentioned earlier in a Cockney accent, Dave Barker, who's a good friend of mine, and I love Dave, and he's got the most wonderful voice. I was trying to mimic Double Barrel. And you know, and it was this ain't down. That's what I was trying to do. And then I kind of sang it on the way home. I was just on my way home, and then when I got in, I remembered it straight away, and I thought, well, this is a good. That's the thing. If you're in the street and you come up with an idea for a title or something, if you can still remember it a bit later
by the time
on,
you get home,
then you think, oh, there might be something persevering. I'm like you now. I'm getting funny. Persevering. I better put the teeth back in. So no. In short, I've never owned a recording studio.
Okay, and the other, well, there was a few questions I had. The other one was, do you have a record label?
Yeah, my record label is called Jekyll Jive. Jekyll Jive. It was originally called N1 Records, which is where I live in London. N1, Islington. And then I had a change of people used to print up my CDs for me, and then I just thought I'll just change it. And being a Londoner, I thought Jekyll was a good word to use. If you know Jekyll, obviously, don't you?
Yeah.
Jekyll Snide, you know. And so I thought Jekyll Jive was quite good, you know. And that's my label. So occasionally I will guest on someone else's music. Like I'm on the new Bim Sculler Bim album, who are a great band, known them for like 30 odd years. They've still got the same lineup. That's incredible. Seven-piece band who've got the same people in it. That's incredible. And you know, the occasional thing for other people, but yeah, Jekyll Jive is my label.
The other two questions. One of them, you're going to hate the question. Is what's been one of the favourite artists you've ever worked with? I know everyone shouldn't really have a favourite, in all fairness, because everyone says to me, "Oh, what's your favourite band?"
Great.
Yeah.
I mean, they were great. I mean, like I like, for instance, I love working with Susan Cadogan because ever since, you know, my youth club days in the mid-70s, where you're trying to dance with girls slowly, I've listened to her so good, and then you get a chance to work with her, and she's my favourite female vocalist. I suppose I'd have to say Prince Buster, because you know, I just got on so good with Buster. Went stayed at his house in America. I worked with him in the studio and live, and he was just so humble as well. And I just never thought I'd ever see the day when he got to work with Prince. I didn't even think he was real. I mean, you know, I used to get these Bluebeam records. I mean, I remember the first time I tried to find Jamaica on the globe, and I couldn't. It's like, where? And then you see how tiny it is. Then you think, what? And all these artists come from this tiny place, you know. And I was out one day, and it was my good friend Gaz Mail, who said, "Nick, it was in Camden Town in the 80s. He said, do you want to meet Prince Buster?" Yeah, right. Blah blah blah. Next thing I know, this guy comes over, and I go, "Yeah, right, Gaz." Like, you know, I go, "Prince Buster, you look really young," and he went, "Hello, Nick. My name is Prince Buster." What? Even that voice. That's a very bad impression of Prince Buster, but. God, I just freaked, you know, because he looked too young. He looked too young to be Prince Buster, but he was, you know. He was probably, I don't know what he would have been in his 40s or something. but he certainly didn't look it. I remember once when he said to me, Nick, I think I'm going to have to take you to the gym. He said I was 200 and we could do some boxing together. But yeah, no. So I mean, I don't know. You know, I mean, even and on the other foot, someone that I loved and got on so well with, and was such a great friend, but never gets the respect really is Judge Dredd. He's like on the opposite end of the thing. Now his records, the original set of Judge Dredd, they're like Jamaican backing tracks. People say, "Oh, you know, well, he's not authentic." All those records were Jamaican backing tracks. And then he used bands like the Cimarrons as backing bands and Greyhound and stuff. I'm not saying they're the greatest records in the world. They make me smile. It's just, at that time, it's like almost like dirty postcard seaside reggae, you know. I get what people don't like about him, but he did a lot. I mean, you know, he did the first Ethiopian famine gig 12 years before Bob Geldof thought about it.
Yeah.
You know, we had Bob Marley and the Wailers in the bill, and this, that, and the other. He did so much work for Trojan and made them so much money. I mean, the records he made were big sellers, and you see, you couldn't hear them. You had to buy them. You had to buy the records because they were all banned.
Yep.
Now, you know, at the time, I mean, you listen to them now, you think, banned? Why? You know, but you listen to them, and of course, if you're 12 years old and you hear, oh, this man, he sort of does nursery rhymes, it's a bit dirty, you know, that's going to appeal to a 12-year-old child or whatever. And so you used to get the records and play them low in your house, you know. But like, you know, so I'm working with like Laura Lake, you know, who's great. And I just said before, Dave Barker, I think, has got the finest voice, you know. I mean, I think he should be a soul singer. He's so, you know, he's so good. And I've just been lucky to work with so many of people whose records I bought when I was a kid. Never thought for a minute I'd get a chance to work with any of these people. You know what I mean? I've been so lucky and so blessed to have had that. You know, I mean, that's my. I was just saying that's my music. You know, like some people will love two-tone, like some people will love whatever. You know. Third wave ska, whatever it's called now, and this
fourth wave ska.
You know.
Yeah.
Is there a fourth wave now?
Yeah, there's a fourth wave ska. I've seen it the other day.
Oh, okay.
Well, not that I know what fourth wave ska would mean, but there you go.
Listen, to me, it's the same as any music. You will never hear out of my mouth me say that music's bad, right? No. It's just that maybe I don't like it or I don't get it. But there's still people who have put their heart and soul, hopefully, into that music. And so people say, oh, well, how could you like that? And I say, well, you know, that's just
he still wrote it and he still produced it, yeah. I get what you mean. I do get what you mean.
I don't understand this. This is an expression that started about, I can hear my wife giving the phone. I told her not to ring me. But anyway, she'll be off in a moment. There's an expression that came around in the 90s for some compilation albums. It was called guilty pleasure. And I've heard people go, oh, my guilty pleasure is on like, I don't know, Barry Mann. And I was like, why? Why is that a guilty pleasure? Just say you like it. And if someone says why, just say it was none of your business. I mean, you know, people would be probably amazed if they saw my music collection, you know. I mean, you know, if I like it, I like it. It doesn't matter what it is. If it moves me in a certain way, then that's it.
I was going to say, I got brought up on Al Jolson when I was a kid.
Really?
Because obviously my dad was into it. Yeah, well, there you go, yeah.
No, Al Jolson, you know, I mean, all right. Nowadays, it's looked upon as
it's probably frowned upon nowadays, but there you go.
Yeah, but I mean, the music's still good, you know, but like, you know, that's it. I mean, so why was you brought up on that?
Just I don't know. My dad was into the Al Jolson film, and obviously I used to watch it as a
Al
kid.
Jolson, yeah, it's great. I thought that
the musical,
yeah. Story. I love it.
Yeah.
Such a
the likes of. My dad used to like Doris Day and people like that. So I was brought up. My dad used to go to soul gigs and all that. So my dad used to be brought up as Northern Soul. So.
Right. Well, my dad used to make Northern Soul records. But they weren't called Northern Soul. It was just orchestral pop. They were. It's only later on that I said, and people go, "Oh, that's a great Northern Soul record." I said, "Really?" And to me, it just sounds like a pop thing. You didn't answer my thing. What area are you from then? That your dad would like?
My dad grew up in. I Oh dear, Camberwell way. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Okay, I just wondered if it was anything to do with the, not that I mean American, but you know.
No. No, so yeah, so I was going to say.
Music you like.
No, it's just my dad. Oh, God, I can't think of the. Oh, what? Not Top of the Pops. What used to come before Top of the Pops in the '60s? Not Ready, Steady, Go.
Ready,
That's
Steady,
it.
Go.
Yeah, so my dad was on Ready, Steady, Go as a dancer or backing or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, there you go, listeners. There you go, listeners. You've got a inkling of me.
And is that where you're from, Camberwell?
No, I live Orpington at the moment.
Orpington. I know it. I know it. But I'm just trying to place where it is. Never mind. Because sometimes, as I said, the area you live in, it sometimes can affect the music you like. Like, for instance, I was brought up in Hackney, and it was just half black, half white. You know, but without thinking about it. You know what I mean? We were just mates.
Yeah.
No one thought about that. No one did. But one thing I will say, it probably influenced me on the reggae thing. You know, because like you come round to my gaff and I'll be playing Mark Bowden's Slade, and you go round my mate's house and I'd hear some Trojan or something like that. But the great thing about that was it wasn't something like, you know, you thought about, oh, I've got to have a friend. We were just mates and still are. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I like that. I don't like all these people throwing all this horrible, nasty, racist stuff into the thing. You know, to me, it's just your mates, isn't it?
Yeah, of course it is.
You know what I mean? That's quite important to me.
Right. Thanks very much for interviewing us this afternoon, or me interviewing you, should I say?
Me. I just rambled on. It's a pleasure, mate. It's a pleasure.
Right.